Good morning, everybody. Bro Ed the Red coming to you once again from Louisville, Kentucky. A brief personal update. The situation at work appears to have been dealt with. It doesn't appear that my job is any longer in jeopardy, at least not for now. Hopefully I'll get my transfer sometime soon. Please be in prayer for that. At any rate, there is quite a bit to report. I had to reset my phone again this morning. Again, I really do believe that is the hacking intervention of the big G owned by the YT. Could be wrong, but that's what I believe is going on. It's not going to do any good to get another phone, I don't think, but I'm going to see what I can do when I have the money. Threats between the U.S. and Iran continue to escalate. This is a bad thing. It really looks like we could very well be on the verge of World War III. Because, as I have said before, if we get involved into armed conflict with them, we will also be involved in armed conflict with all their allies. Big allies and little ones. Big ones are China, Russia. Little ones like North Korea and others. Either way, a lot of nuclear-capable powers that we don't need to be in conflict with. This is not a good thing. ISIS circulates posters of threatening posters of attack on London and New York. Sleeper cells could be activated. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, I get the majority of my info from probably some of the same places you get yours from. Of course, I get a lot of it from Marf. I also get a good amount of mine on a regular basis from Jennifer Veterans for Truth, Florida Maquis, and occasionally Lisa Haven. I would strongly suggest going to Lisa Haven's channel and listening to her most recent message, because it's very informative. And she goes into a lot more detail. She can show you articles and photographs and what have you that I can't show, as far as I know, with my phone. Or if I can, I don't know how. All I can say is if they activate sleeper cells in this country, there isn't going to be much of anywhere really that's going to be safe unless you live in a rural community that does not have a high concentration of immigrants. So I'm not going to say where here, because I don't want these people knowing where they are not, because then they could go there. But there are some areas here in Kentucky that have low concentrations, have any, and I really wish that I was there, because Louisville is not one of them. At any rate, as if that's not bad enough, sleeper cells activated in major cities could very well happen. Global war could very well happen. We've also still very much got the potential possibility, maybe even a likelihood, of civil war breaking out in this country. And quite frankly, I'm just going to come right out and say it because it's the truth. The main thing I feel that would cause this to happen would be if the globalist socialists, we know who I'm talking about, I don't have to use their techno name or political name that they use, it begins with a D, we'll just put it that way. If they succeed at some point in any way at getting guns confiscated, even if they do it state by state, I'm telling you, there are a lot of people out there who will fight tooth and nail to keep their guns, and we will be in a civil war over that. We absolutely will be. It is inevitable. People who want to be able to defend themselves and their families, their property, what have you, they're not going to give up their guns, and they shouldn't give up their guns. Quite frankly, if it were me and I had access to a cannon, I'd have one. If I had a means to store it, I would absolutely have a cannon. I'd have a laser gun if I could manage to get one. I'd have whatever I felt was necessary to defend where I live and my family and myself. Absolutely I would. Not anywhere near as well armed as I would like to be, but I'm as well armed as I can be. That's all I'm going to say. This is really getting bad. Not only do we have them trying to take away our means of defending ourselves, which, some people believe that that is because they want to be able to gain control more easily. I don't think that's what it is. I think that's only a very small part of it. If we can't defend ourselves, then it's very easy for them to just come in and take us out to wherever they want to take us and kill us, cremate us, or kill us in our own home. And I'm quite certain that that's what the globalists want. I know that's what they want. Their main objective is depopulation. Right now they're trying to do it through disease, but they would not stop with that. If they can manage to just take you out in a heartbeat, they'll do it. There's no doubt in my mind. But I don't want anybody to feel like I'm picking on those particular people only, because I'm not. As I have said in previous messages, I really do believe that the other side, beginning with an R, they're going to eventually wind up doing the same thing. Or at least with anybody that does not agree with their way of doing things, would be having their guns taken from them if they have any. At least that. It's hard to say just yet, but that would only be a precursor to something far more sinister. There's no doubt in my mind. Because it's quite obvious to me, and to quite a few other people, that there really is no difference between the R and the D anymore. Sorry, there just isn't. They're just going about the same goals and objectives from different perspectives. They want us to be divided here in this country, because the more division that we have here, the easier it's going to be for one or the other to come in eventually at some point trying to claim that they are saving the day, and everybody's going to just go with that because they're going to feel like, oh, we need to be protected. No, we don't need to be protected. We need to protect ourselves, and that means keeping our weapons in our possession. Now, something I want to get to. Now, this is just my own personal perspective on this one, but I am hearing from a lot of people a particular term being used with reference to technology companies, technological companies, as well as cyber companies, social media, what have you, being termed as giants, techno giants, social media giants, what have you. I don't think that it is a coincidence that I was researching the L, which is was an Old Testament measurement used in the Book of Enoch to describe how tall the giants were in those days. And when I say giants, I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean. I have mentioned this in previous videos. I don't know how many of you actually went in and listened to the one that is titled Broed the Red, or Broed Unveiling Truth. If you haven't, I would strongly suggest that, because it goes into a lot more detail than I'm going to go into here, but I am going to go into this. Genesis 6 makes it very clear that these giants, and different people have different ways of looking at things. Some people believe still that it was the descendants of Seth versus the descendants of Cain, yada yada yada. I don't believe that. The Book of Enoch, the Book of Joshua, which is, I want to let you know, if you don't know, the Book of Joshua goes into this very detailed as well, and it is both referenced by name twice and quoted from in the Old Testament in both the book of Joshua as well as 2 Samuel. Look it up. Now, after saying that, I want to say this. If that book is referenced by name twice and quoted from twice in the Old Testament, there's a reason for that. I don't believe it's annotated bibliography. Sorry, I don't believe that. The book of Joshua is just as much part of God's Word as Genesis to Revelation. It's even older. I would say because it is older, it's more authoritative. Sorry, if you have a problem with that, that's okay. I don't mind you having a problem with that. But the book of Enoch is also far older than anything in the Bible. So, as far as I'm concerned, it also is more authoritative than Genesis to Revelation. Sorry, that's just the way I see it. There are many books that didn't make it in the Bible that predate the writing of the books that got in. And those, as far as I'm concerned, do have more authority than the Bible itself. Anything older does, as far as I'm concerned. A lot of scholars would say the same. Just so you're aware. At any rate, I don't think that it's a coincidence that I was looking up that measurement. Now, I don't know for sure what that measurement entailed, but being called an L, back then the L in English didn't exist, so, the English language didn't exist, so I could be wrong on this, but it makes sense that maybe, possibly, an L might have been, something resembling the length of a man's arm, from the elbow to the tip of the fingers. I don't know for sure, but that's what I'm thinking. I do know, I don't remember which scripture it is, but you can look it up. In Genesis to Revelation, I think it might have been somewhere in Deuteronomy, where it was stating not only, in Deuteronomy they were saying that they looked like grasshoppers in the sight of these giants when they went into Canaan to scout and see what was going on and what the defenses of the people that they were going to be going up against. There was a reason why they said that. They were not exaggerating. They were not exaggerating. There are references in the Bible that come right out and say that these giants were as tall as cedar trees. That's pretty darn tall. So I'm talking, 40, 60 feet tall? They did look like grasshoppers to them. Undoubtedly so. But, it's said in Genesis that it was in those days and after that the giants were here. Even after the flood. There's no doubt in my mind that they have genetically manipulated themselves to look just like us. They're probably not gigantic anymore, but there are those that were sealed, and the myth, so to speak, of the Titans being bound in Tartarus, I don't believe that's a myth. Those were the giants of old, and they're still there. And I do believe with all my heart, mind, and soul that they are going to be loosed at some point during the tribulation. And all I can say is look at Matthew 24, 29 to 31. It will tell you whether or not some of us are still going to be here at the end of that 7 years, or for the whole 7 years. It may be that somewhere between the beginning and the end that some people will be taken. I don't know for sure. All I do know is that there are scriptures that make reference to before, there are scriptures that make reference to the middle, and then there is Matthew 24, 29 to 31, that comes right out and says that we will not see Christ return until after the tribulation of those days. So it's not really that much of a stretch of the imagination that it could happen 3 separate times. Will it? I don't know. But I do believe it's possible that it could. I know from Matthew 24, 29 to 31 that there are going to at least be some of us still here. Don't know how many, but there will be at least some. At any rate, I believe personally that the reason why these companies are being called giants is because they are actually being owned and operated by the hybridized offspring of fallen angels and human females. They could very well at this point even have genetically manipulated themselves to the point that the males can reproduce with human females. At any rate, I believe that. I really do. And I believe they have infiltrated politics. That's why we are having so much of a difficulty with politics these days. And I've seen way too much evidence that they could very well have infiltrated the church. Too much ear tickling going on out there these days, folks. Way too much. More of that than there is anybody telling the whole truth. Nobody really out there for the most part, or not very many, unless you find them on YouTube, are telling the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help them God. I see more of that on YouTube, people actually trying to do that. I don't see it in churches anywhere. Local churches, that's why I stopped going, because most of them don't know what they're talking about. They act like they do, they think they do. You can't tell them anything because they think they know it all. I just don't have time for people like that. I just don't. I have my own revelations, and I'm sticking to them because I'm certain that they came from God. I'm not going to pay attention to somebody who doesn't know anywhere near as much as they want me to believe they do. I'm just not. At any rate, that's where I'm coming from with the techno giants, with the social media giants. I really do believe that that's who they're owned and operated by. That's who the globalists are. They claim, these people out there, I'm not going to say who, you'll be able to figure out who pretty quickly, but they claim that global warming is being caused by people. No, it's not. If you take a really good look at the geological history of Earth, this has happened so many times in the past. And not only has this happened, but global cooling. We've had ice ages, we've had warm-ups, we've had greenhouse periods where almost nothing was even capable of surviving here. It was so hot. This is usually naturally occurring stuff. Now, if it's not a naturally occurring thing, I don't believe that it is being exacerbated by human beings. If it's being exacerbated by anybody, it's being exacerbated by these hybrids in positions of power and authority all over the world. I believe, I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to terraform Earth so that it will be hospitable for them and their offspring. It won't be hospitable for us, only for them. But they are going to need a food source like they did before. So there will be some places, I think, that would be hospitable for us. They're going to have to be if they're going to use us for food, which eventually they will if they can find us and catch us. But because that's what they did before in the old days. The Book of Enoch makes that very clear. Book of Enoch, Book of Joshua, Book of Jubilees goes into it, and Genesis to Revelation goes into some of that. Not as much as the others, but it does go into some of it. Enough that you can actually get a feel for what was going on then and that it's going to reoccur. Jude, and Christ himself, both of them made it clear that the same things that were happening in the days of Noah are going to happen once again as the time approaches for Christ to return. They weren't just talking about eating and drinking and giving in marriage. That was just put in there because somebody, whoever, wanted to keep everybody calm. They didn't want everybody knowing the whole truth for whatever the reason. Well, we do know the whole truth. You can't keep that from people forever. You just can't do it. The truth always comes out. It always comes to the surface, whether it's being hidden for hundreds of years at a time or not. It's going to come to the surface. At any rate, we do need to be prepared in multiple ways. First and foremost, yes, everyone needs to prepare spiritually. We don't want to be caught with our spiritual guard down, but we don't want to be caught with our mundane guard down either. Prep both ways. Go into the Word, find out what it says. What is God's will for your daily life? That's pretty much the same for everybody. Finding out what God's will is for you as an individual, that can be a little bit more difficult. I still am not 100% certain what that is for me. I have a theory what it might be later on, but what it is right now, maybe this is all there is to it. I don't know. It doesn't look like it includes me having a partner until the apocalypse hits, and there are quite a few individuals out there that are just so desperate for food, water, clothing. Even the shelter of a tent would look good to a whole lot of people at that point. So, you could basically pretty easily, I think, at that point, ensure that they're going to be faithful and monogamous, because if they're not, you can kick them out of your tent. But at any rate, till next time, be prepared spiritually in the mundane. Make sure you've got as much water as possible, non-perishable food. I want to make some points here on the non-perishable food. If you have a car, go for it. If you want to get canned goods, you can store those and you can transport them. Make sure that you've always got at least 3/4 of a tank of gas in your car, though. Try to have one that's not got all kinds of electronics in it, just in case of an EMP. But, if you've got a car, canned goods are fine. I've done that even though I don't have a car, and for me, I think I might have made a mistake. So at this point, I am switching over to things like trail mixes and things that are dehydrated fruit, nuts, vegetables, what have you, because they're going to be easier for me to transport because they're lightweight and easy to eat. So I would suggest anybody that doesn't have a car, I know it sounds kind of boring, you'd eventually get kind of tired of eating dehydrated fruit, vegetables, trail mixes, nuts, and what have you, but you know what, it's better than not having any food at all, and it's good and healthy for you. So I suggest, large quantity, as much in bulk as you can get of these things. I wouldn't advise freeze-dried, because for someone on a limited budget, that stuff is just way too expensive. It really is, and you don't get very much of it for the amount of money that you're paying. You're going to do yourself a big favor to go with the things that I mentioned. Nuts, dehydrated fruit, vegetables, trail mixes, even cereal. Stock up on cereal. You can make trail mixes with the cereal and other things. Put it in storage containers and keep it good and fresh. At any rate, till next time. Also, don't forget to stock up on hygiene supplies, body and oral hygiene, first aid supplies, as well as weapons. And if you have weapons that require ammunition, stock up on that. If you don't, then just get the best ones that you can. If you do have weapons that require ammunition, hide it, and hide it well. You may, somebody out there somewhere may be able to see what you're doing, but, you got to be sneaky. You got to learn how to be sneaky. That's all I can say. Sneaky is sometimes good. In this day and age, it's a very good thing to know how to be good and sneaky. What time of day is the best time of day in a 24-hour period, to do something like that? Make sure that you don't have your phone on you, because that's a good way for people to be tracked. It might not be as easy to do at nighttime as it is in the daytime. I don't know. But at any rate, just do the best you can with what you got. Till next time, I love you guys. I hope that somewhere that I've said in here has been helpful, beneficial. I hope nobody unsubscribes. I hope. Please like, share, and subscribe. Don't unsubscribe. Please, I would appreciate that. I don't agree with everything that I hear from the news sources that I listen to, but I don't unsubscribe. I know why? because most of what I hear I do agree with. So why should I unsubscribe? Doesn't make any sense. You know, it's like gays and lesbians thinking that they can't listen to a preacher that is anti-gay. Well, if the vast majority of what he's saying is obviously true and you're getting a lot out of it, listen to him. You don't have to listen to the part that you don't agree with. I don't agree with those parts either. But if I'm 90% or more of what I'm hearing coming from them is benefiting me, I'm going to keep listening to them. Why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I? At any rate, till next time, I love you guys. Bro Ed the Red, signing off. Peace out.